What's up, guys? Just a quick little FYI before you start this podcast. I've been editing all day because last night I uploaded this episode and YouTube took it down for quote unquote misinformation because we said the dreaded V word. And I just want to say that it's very disgusting that this platform is still censoring speech based on big pharma shilling for their product. And it just speaks to where we're still at. We are not out of the woods yet when it comes to censoring speech. And this episode is very important because it covers a lot of quote unquote conspiracy topics that they don't want you to know about and ties together a lot of breadcrumbs and important information that needs to get out to the public. So I committed myself to editing out the dirty words that can't be said on YouTube. So I just want to say, fuck you, YouTube. We're going to get this information out, even if I got to spend hours of my time bleeping out naughty words. And so I hope you guys enjoy this episode. There's a lot of very valuable information in this podcast. And without further ado, this is Octopussy. Welcome back to another episode of Quantum Alchemists, episode 12. We're done 12 of these things. I am your host, Mr. Alchemistic, but you can call me B, and I'm joined as always by my very gracious co-host, Mr. Quantum himself, Alex Romero Vingian. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, B. What's going on with you and everybody? Thank you for tuning in.
I am
How you been, B?
good, man. I mean, this Pluto transition has been very purge heavy, to say the least. Been doing a lot of purging, literally and spiritually. But it's been quite a transition. The energy has been very intense and very tangible. This shift that we've undergone since the 19th. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, possible World War III. A lot of stuff to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to cover
Yeah,
today.
that part.
We talked about last episode how we wanted to get into this Jack Kruse interview, his podcast on Danny Jones's podcast on YouTube. You can find the video
We
down in
did.
the links in the description. We talked about it a little bit last episode. We really want to dive into this thing because it's very intense and very immersive, and a lot of information that he dropped in that podcast. It's very relevant and very much in line with the type of information we're trying to bring you guys. So we're going to dive into that. But before we get started, Alex, I wanted to share something else I found. It kind of goes along with last episode. Last episode, talked a lot about alchemy and sorcery and the difference. And I shared a Manly P. Hall quote that I felt was very prevalent and very relevant to the topic. Manly P. Hall, if you guys missed it, go check out that episode. What is this sorcery? Episode 11. We went really in depth into the difference between white and black magic, alchemy, and sorcery. And there's a really good Manly P. Hall quote. And I found another one that is kind of in line with what he was talking about in that last episode. And it's very relevant for anyone who's delving into the occult. Maybe you're just dipping your toe, or maybe you're knee deep and don't really have a clue of where you stand. But Manly P. Hall is a authority on the matter, and I would recommend his book Secret Teachings of All Ages, which we covered in, I think, episode 3. So this quote, he says,
Yep.
in studying the sacred sciences, the first point that the student must understand is that they will give him no powers or opportunities greater than those which he has prepared himself to receive by the life he has lived. The daily life is the test of the student, and until he lives true to the laws of the mystic temple builders, he can never gain anything from the study of the Kabbalah. For the esoteric wisdom is not a series of intellectual facts, but a living spiritual thing which can be recognized only by those who live and think in harmony with it. There is only one reward for those who seek spiritual unfoldment or extension of power without first cleansing the body and the soul. The very powers which the student draws to him in his studies will destroy him unless he is robed in the garments of purity. Unto the unpurified, God is a consuming fire. For wherever dross is in the nature, his power will burn it away. With the influx of the spiritual power, there is a great cataclysm in the body of man. And if he has not prepared it to the best of his ability to receive this light, his foolhardiness will precipitate obsession, insanity, and death. For broken bodies, nerves, and minds follow in the wake of broken laws. The student of the mysteries must learn to be patient. He must be prepared to strive for ages without reward, with no more encouragement than the realization of a life work well done. The power of the true mystic and the insight of the Kabbalist are not assumed, but are slowly evolved by years, nay, lives of unselfish service and self-improvement. Nowhere on the white path are there any exceptions to this rule. And that is Manly P. Hall from the Sacred Kabbalah. More very, very powerful words from
Dude,
Manly
that's
P. Hall.
powerful, and that's so true. That's so true.
It's
Yeah, so true, man. And
it's 100% in line with last episode, what we were talking about, the difference between white and black magic and the ramifications of delving into sorcery, the ramifications of approaching the practice of alchemy with an unpure and unfit soul. It will destroy you. And anything that is not in line with your spiritual practice and the spiritual principles and the requirements of purity to pursue this path, it will take you down into the shadow deep, and it will bury you deep into darkness. And a lot of people, I think, in the spiritual community are consumed by the shadow, and they don't even really realize it. And it's a cautionary suggestion by Manly P. Hall that if you want to delve into the occult, you must purify yourself. You must follow the laws of the universe. You must follow God's requirements of purity. And if you come into this practice impure or greedy or selfish, you're going to be destroyed by it. And that may be fearful and scary to some people, but this is not something you take lightly. You do not delve into this path lightly with a material mind and a selfish soul. It's just is not going to work for you. So being that we are the quantum alchemists, being that we are presenting you this path, the path that we are walking, and trying to guide people and shine the light onto this path for others as this awakening and human consciousness happens. It is very important that we highlight these types of things. Somebody who's tread this path before us, Manly P. Hall, who is a giant in this world of the occult, he knows better than me and Alex know. So these are the type of people that we study. These are the type of principles that we try to follow. And when we urge any of you to take this very seriously, if you're stepping into this spiritual path, because it is, like I said last episode, it is very easy to get swallowed by the shadow once you step into this path. So I think that's a good way to start off and kind of add a cherry on top of last episode, and really get into today's episode, which is about delving into the shadowy parts of our world, which is what this Jack Kruse interview was very heavy on, with the conspiracy stuff. But I want to emphasize before we get into it, this is not like the tinfoil hat type of conspiracy stuff. This isn't the Matrix sponsored version of truth conspiracy stuff. This dude was in the trenches with real life experience that he drew these conclusions from, and real life experience that he made these connections with. This isn't just some fanciful stuff that a guy in a basement cooked up in his head. Jack Kruse is very much a frontline warrior in this
Oh,
fight. Was that?
I want to add to something that you were saying. I don't know if you could hear me. Hello.
Yeah, I got you.
I think we're having a connection issue here.
Uh, I can still hear you.
Oh,
There you go.
okay. I hear you. So what I was gonna say was I wanted to add something on top of what you were saying before with the Manly P. Hall quote, which was, um, when you told me the quote, the only thing that came to mind for whatever reason was, an old saying that goes, uh, to be careful of passing off wisdom that you didn't earn on your own. And that's kind of like the phrase that popped into my head. And I only say that because the reference you're making about Jack Cruz, him being down in the trenches, being at the ground zero. It's like this guy's coming from a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of personal experience, and from being right there, like witnessing a firsthand account, not from someone told me, but from like I saw it or I heard it for myself. And so yeah, and I don't know if you want to give this a shot, and let's just say maybe we jump off and jump back on to like refresh the connection and buy ourselves some time also from the timer, just because I was having some connections. It was a little choppy
I think we're
um
good. It smoothed out. I think it
before I
was just a little rough patch. But to your point about Jack Cruz and not passing off wisdom that isn't your own. Um, when we turn our backs on the mainstream because we know the mainstream is bullshit, right? And you start off on this path of trying to find truth. You go into the conspiracy rabbit holes, and this is something that's very prevalent in the conspiracy world. Is like we're grasping for something beyond what we've been given. This fucking bullshit version of reality that's sold to us. We're trying to grab at something else. There's a tendency to grab on to these bullshit conspiracies and start spouting them as if they are gospel. And this is something that I think every person that has gone into the alternative media, into the conspiracy world, gets guilty of. I've been guilty of it. I've been doing this for 2 decades, right? Delving in these rabbit holes. And it's really, you really have to be careful to check your sources and don't just believe everything you read. Just because something is giving you an alternative version of truth that isn't the mainstream doesn't mean that that's the truth either. This is why I use the phrase the matrix sponsored version of truth, because the CIA created this term conspiracy theorists to discredit truth, right? And they've flooded the conspiracy community with a lot of bullshit conspiracies to try to muddy the water. And so it's really important to find people like Jack Cruz, who has done a lot of research and has been in the front lines and putting things together with real life experience. Don't get caught by the okey doke of the alternative version of truth that's out there, because there's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of bullshit that the CIA and all these uh, these black agencies have flooded into that part of the internet to make people like us or anybody who's trying to grasp at the truth seem crazy.
the
You
noise.
know,
They
um,
created the noise.
what's that?
I just said they created noise. I just said they created noise. They create noise so that you can't tell, like you can't tell which version of the news that you heard is the truth when it's probably a combination of all the versions that you heard, just you don't know which one.
And a great example of this is the QAnon movement, right?
That's all.
Um, the QAnon thing caught fire, and people were caught up in this QAnon thing. And one of the things that they said in the QAnon thing was that JFK Jr. never died; he faked his death, and that he was going to come back like a fucking messiah rising from the dead, and he was going to prove that Trump won the election. It was just a whole bunch of fucking crazy nonsense that people literally were believing. They believed that JFK Jr. was going to come back like some kind of resurrection, and then what they did is they tied the sex trafficking stuff into it, right? so that it would all seem crazy. This is how they do it. This is how they blanket demonize truth. Is they put something up like, oh, JFK Jr. is still alive, and then they put something in it like with it like sex trafficking and fucking black, like the child sex trafficking and like the black magic stuff that goes on with children, sacrificing children, the frazzle drip Hillary Clinton stuff that was really on Anthony Weiner's laptop. That's how they demonize a truth like that. Like, oh yeah, the elites are sacrificing kids and drinking adrenochrome, which seems like it's pretty true. But then they put it with JFK Jr. and elites drinking baby blood seems really crazy. And then you put it with JFK Jr. coming back from the dead. Oh wow, it's all crazy. But it's like no, this crazy thing that seems wild
No,
is
it's really
pretty
crazy.
verifiable if you really delve into what black magic is and what some of the spells are, and it's really deep and dark and nasty. But you put it with a JFK Jr. is the Messiah coming back from the dead, and it all seems crazy. Because one of the things Jack Kruse says in this podcast is the difference between truth and fiction is that fiction has to make sense, right? When you're putting together a fictional story, it kind of has to make sense, but
Yeah, yeah,
the truth doesn't, because the truth is wild, right? The
yeah.
truth is, and he ties up all these breadcrumbs together and bakes this beautiful fucking loaf of bread for us that ties together a lot of very deep dark secrets. And so yeah, let's get into it.
Have you ever heard this saying where it says the truth is stranger than any fiction ever written? You ever
Yeah,
heard that?
I mean, the bad religion, truth, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, and it's real because the truth is wild, and a lot of the truth has been hidden, and because it's so wild, a lot of people wouldn't even believe it. So I think that's a good start, a little ramp, little runway to get into this interview, and a little background on Jack Kruse. He is a neurosurgeon. He's a brain surgeon. That's his background. So he's not a dummy. He can't really be a dummy and be a neurosurgeon. And so, just to anybody who would like to discredit him off the get, that oh he's just some wild wacky tinfoil hat guy. The dude operates on brains. So one, he's got a pretty strong background in understanding the human mind and understanding the human brain and how it operates, how it works, the building blocks of our mind. He understands because he's operated on it and has really looked into the science of the brain and psychology and human behavior, which is I think one of the most interesting parts was the blue light stuff, which we touched on a little bit last episode. The blue lights that are on our screens, right? The science behind blue light, how it the blue light inhibits our dopamine receptors, right? And this technology, these screens are engineered for addiction, to get you and to make you become addicted to it. Basically, puts you in a dopamine addled state that of reward system with the phones and with the social media and they've done extensive research on this. He talks a lot about MK Ultra, these MK Ultra experiments that the government has done on the human brain, human responses, the stimuli of our human brain and how it responds, and our dopamine receptors. And um, another thing that he tied it into was Las Vegas, the Jewish mafia when they created Las Vegas. They looked at a lot of the studies of the human brain, and the casinos have blue light because it puts you in a dopamine state where you kind of turns you into a zombie. And they blocked out the sun. Now, you look any casino you go into, you will not see any hint of sunlight. It's all blue light, and they block out the sun. And then they brought in scantily clad women. They started pumping alcohol into you. This is all psychology of addiction. This is things that they do, and this is things that they've studied, and it's something that he went into great length about. is this blue light study, and he himself has turned off the blue light on his phone, all his screens. And I believe there's a setting to do that with your phone. You can go in and turn off the blue light. So you got guys Google it if you want to, and find out how to do it if you're interested in turning off the blue light on your phone. But this just speaks to
Yeah, the blue light thing is really interesting, right? Because like you look at your computer screens, you look at your phones, everything that you're looking at, you look at screens that are out on the street, billboard signs, everything's got that blue light stuff, right? You go to Vegas, it's all blue lights, right? That's where the whole thing, that's where all the research actually started at, was out there in Vegas. So well, actually they didn't start the research, so I'm sorry. They found the research out in Louisiana, and then they brought that out to Vegas, and they're like, you know what, let's just set up this place out here in the desert, which actually, if you if you listen to the podcast, Jack Kruse says about how those guys over there in Atlantic City were laughing, at the people that were out there in Vegas. Like, what are these schmucks doing, out there in the dirt, playing in the dirt. And when everything went down, with the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that stuff, and all the beef with Cuba and Castro, and they couldn't wash their money over there anymore. uh, all of a sudden Vegas became a nice outlet for them, and so they were forced to work with the people out in Vegas. So like that's an interesting little history right there.
yeah, that was another thing he tied in very
I feel like you want to say something.
well, no, he with the whole Cuban Missile Crisis and the Castro coming into power, the Italian mafia. He talks about mafia, right? He talks about the mafia ties, the mob ties, the Jewish mafia in Vegas, and the Italian mafia down in Cuba. When Castro came into power, it basically threw a wrench in all their works down there. Like you said, they were washing their money down there. They're laundering their money. Um, and Castro came into power and really threw a wrench in the works there. And then he goes into depth about the mafia ties to the JFK assassination and Oswald's involvement with the Russians, and he was a medical runner when they were doing research on the polio vaccine, because the polio vaccine came out in the early 50s, and before they found DNA, before they discovered DNA in 1953, polio vaccine came out in 1951, and in 53 they discovered DNA. And then they really got into like the this is when all the manufacturing in the pharmaceutical industry of really started, and germ theory and the study of microbiology really took off, is when they discovered DNA. And so they found through the early studies of this polio that it had this SV40 in it, which basically creates super cancers. And so Oswald was part of a research group that was studying the SV40 effects, and it actually ended up being able to weaponize SV40, and they were trying to assassinate Castro with by putting SV40 on a cigar. And this is documented, by the way. Oswald tried to go to Cuba from Mexico, right? And he got denied. But his whole mission was to go to Cuba with a tainted cigar and give it to Castro so that he would get super cancer. And this is we're going to start hitting the accelerator button now on all this stuff. But Oswald was tied in with the CIA. He was a CIA asset, and he was being used as a runner in these medical experiments so he could
Hmm.
gain intel for the CIA. And then they sent him to Russia to figure out how to put this SV40 onto a cigar. And then when he failed, this is where where the Kennedy assassination came in, right? Where he failed to enter
Oh
Cuba.
yeah, yeah.
He when he failed to enter Cuba, he knew that he was going to become a patsy in the Kennedy assassination, because they needed to get rid of Kennedy. The mob wanted to either get rid of Castro or get rid of Kennedy. because both of them were a huge hindrance to the mob's operations. And the CIA is tied into the mob, right? They're all bed buddies, right? They're all like strange bedfellows. This shit all ties together. But if you guys know anything about the JFK assassination, Oliver Stone's work,
They're
um,
good
he
fellas.
he tied in a lot of this stuff. He didn't quite put it all together like Jack Kruse does in this interview, which is fascinating. If you guys are into the JFK assassination, you have to watch this interview, because he ties together things because of his connections on the front lines with people that worked with Oswald during this whole time. A woman, I don't remember her name, something Baker. She was working hand in hand with Oswald on this experiment, on the experiments with the polio vaccine, and the SV40. They're trying to find a way to get the SV40 out of the polio. That was their job, but the government really wanted to learn more about SV40 and this super cancer that it caused. And then he also ties in Jack Ruby's cancer, how his cancer accelerated really fast. They actually, his theory is that they found a way to get Jack Ruby this SV40, and that's why he became so sick so fast after he went to jail for shooting Oswald. It was all this big huge cleanup operation to basically clean out the people who were directly involved, all the
Now,
CIA assets. It
real
was the
quick,
CIA doing a cleaning operation.
real quick, I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you remember where he does the tie-in back to like the military industrial complex and General Groves. Like, do you remember how that whole thing ties in?
Yeah, like General Groves was somebody that I believe Truman fired, right? Was it Truman or Eisenhower? Him and he fell out of favor with the military, right? And this is if you guys remember Eisenhower, if you this is for like very well versed conspiracy people. Eisenhower made a very famous speech when he was exiting the office of president, and he warned us about the military-industrial complex, which is basically what coined that phrase, military-industrial complex, because Eisenhower saw what was happening. Right, he saw that there was this shadow government that was being created in these black ops organizations like the CIA, and all these, England has the MI6, Israel has the Mossad. I think there's another one. Pakistan has like the ISI or something. That they're all the black ops organizations, like the CIA. Every country was forming their own black ops, intelligence, like organizations at the time. This is when it was all coming together. The shadow government of the world, the globalist shadow government that
And
is now.
this was all during the time, by the way, of the Manhattan Project. Okay, so we're talking about 1948 is when he retired, and according to ChatGPT, he wasn't officially fired. Okay, but um, he was relieved of his command, and even though he was no longer in that position, he still maintained a great deal of influence and a great deal of power. And this is pretty much where like the shadow government began.
Yeah, at General Groves, Jack Kruse talks a lot about him, and it's not somebody I ever knew about. And I'm like pretty well versed in conspiracies, as you can tell. I'm just bringing up stuff because this is Jack Kruse tied in a lot of stuff that I've already researched. But General Groves was somebody I never came onto my radar, but he was adamant that this guy was a huge key. He's a huge part of creating the shadow government. He exited his command post from the military, but he had already amassed a bunch of connections in the mob, in the CIA, and he was kind of like this linchpin in all of this stuff: the JFK assassination, the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industry with the vaccine, and the SV40, and all this different stuff. General Groves, he and Jack Kruse says in the interview, like General Groves was Hitler times a million, basically. Like Hitler, he believes that Jack Grove or General Groves was one of the most evil people that ever existed. But nobody knows who the fuck this guy is because he was so successful at masking himself in the shadow government. He was like the Black Pope, if you guys know anything about the Black Pope. He was the um he was the dark emissary.
We'll have to do an episode on that another time.
Black Pope is the Jesuit Pope. If you guys, it's a Jesuits. Yeah, it's a whole another rabbit. But
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah. We'll do that
General
for another
Groves,
time.
yeah, look up the Black Pope. So General Groves was basically the emissary of darkness in the shadow government. He's the one that basically was a facilitator of these things, and he was part of the Manhattan Project, which created the bomb, and um, and a lot of the nuclear research at the time, which Jack Kruse talks about. They had a nuclear reactor in this where they were doing this research on the SV40 vac SV40 in the polio, trying to they're doing a lot of research on monkeys and stuff and the radiation and this is all the where the modern to
So check this
cancer.
out. Check, check this out. After overseeing the completion of the Manhattan Project, he moved on to other assignments, including managing the construction of the Pentagon and later working with the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission.
This dude has a lot of blood on his hands, and you know, he's kind of escaped scrutiny in history, and in a lot of conspiracy stuff. Like I said, I'm very well versed in conspiracies. I had my conspiracy podcast, which I've talked about before, Dead Rabbit Society, that you can still find on Spotify. Dead Rabbit Society, that I started during COVID, but it was basically me just dumping 2 decades of my knowledge into a conspiracy podcast. So I never really ran across this General Groves guy. So that was a guy that Jack Kruse kind of used to tie a lot of this stuff together because this General Groves guy was involved in all these little things, and it's really fascinating how he put all this stuff together. But Oswald basically knew that he was going to be a patsy going into Dallas, and they had already tried to kill Kennedy. I believe in Tampa, they were talking about that, and they were unsuccessful. But Kennedy had to go, and one of the things, if you look into Kennedy, right, Kennedy got elected because his dad made a deal with the Italian mob, the Chicago Mafia, and then when Kennedy got into office, he basically turned his back on the mob, and that's not a very smart thing to do. Needless to say, so he drew the ire of the mob, the Italian mafia, because he went back on his promises to them once he got into office, and then he was a big problem for them, um, and um, and yeah, when they were unsuccessful at killing Castro, they turned their attention to Kennedy because both of these we got interrupted there by the end of the Zoom session, but I was talking about how the mafia, when they failed to assassinate Castro, which we're talking about strange bedfellows, right? The CIA wanted Castro gone, the government, the mafia, because Castro, the mafia is anti-communist, and Castro came in and really threw a wrench in their works. So they failed at assassinating Castro multiple times with the Bay of Pigs invasion, with this whole cigar thing that Kruse talks about with Oswald, and that's documented, right? This they tried to kill Castro with a poison cigar, and Oswald was involved in it, CIA asset all the way. So they turned their attention to Kennedy because Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy, as the Attorney General, had basically gone after the mob after the Chicago mob helped him get elected. So he was one of the mob's number one enemies. So they figured, all right, we can't get rid of this thorn in our side in Castro. Let's go after Kennedy. And again, strange bedfellows. The CIA wanted Kennedy gone because he basically came out and said that he was going to get rid of them. And Kennedy famously, before he was assassinated, there's a speech out there where he talks about the shadow government, where he talks about the monolithic.
That's right.
Yeah, it's I forget what his exact terminology was, but it was pretty obvious he was talking about the shadow government. He was talking about the military-industrial complex, much like Eisenhower had warned about this growing monolithic power in the behind the scenes. Which we fast forward to today, Trump really came to power and influence by calling out the swamp. The DC swamp was how he referred to it, where it's just this is the bureaucracy, this is the shadow government, this is the unelected people in the that are power brokers in Washington D.C. and beyond. You really get into the globalist government and these intelligence agencies. I talked about MI6 and Mossad and CIA. These intelligence agencies form the shadow government's military wing. This is like the shadow army. Um, these are the people pulling strings and stuff like Iran Contra and running drugs and guns and raising money for black ops. This is quantifiably real. Like this isn't conspiracy
I want to
theory.
read. I want to read something real quick. I want to read. It says these are the key quotes, right, from his speech. It says on secrecy and secrecy's dangers. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. Okay. On the role of the press, he says, we decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Dude, this was true then. Imagine how real, how true this is now.
Well,
It
that's
says,
why
on the
he.
need for an informed public. Hold on, one second, one second.
No, go ahead.
On the need for an informed public. The public, I am sure, will be much more engaged in any future endeavor when they are aware of the information that is available to them. The only way to avoid danger is to face the reality of the situation. And that's it. Those are the key quotes.
Yeah, I mean, Kennedy basically put a big middle finger up to the shadow government and the mafia, and like it made him a target, and he had a lot of hubris in going into Dallas in an open car. Like he pretty much dared them to kill him, and they did. And unfortunately, it was a huge misstep on his part, and it cost him his life. And he was just too bold and brash, and he thought that he was above being taken out, and they took him out. And it's unfortunate because he could have done a lot of good. He could have done a lot of really good things, and maybe he could have stemmed off the rise of power of these people because they were still fairly new, right? Like the CIA was created in the late 40s. The shadow government didn't have the stranglehold on the government that it does now 60, 70
Yeah,
years later.
yeah.
you
They
know
weren't that
um
powerful. They weren't that.
eh, no, they were just coming into their tactics and the way that they did business, and they really rose to power during like the Johnson administration and beyond. Is really when the CIA so it's unfortunate that Kennedy just had too much balls because it cost him his fucking life. And you look at the power brokers behind the scenes. These are the fucking players, you guys. The fucking intelligence agencies, the military industrial complex, these arms dealers, these arms companies, the fucking pharmaceutical industry, the mafia, like these are the fucking people that are the shadow government. These are the people that are controlling things from behind the scenes and stranglehold on this world at this point. And they're trying to steer us into a certain way. And we saw this during COVID, which brings me to the pharmaceutical part of this podcast. And this is something that Jack Kruse is well versed in. He's a neurosurgeon. He is involved in the pharmaceutical industry, or was before he decided to go rogue and start exposing this shit. The industry, right? And he was talking about SV40 and how it causes super cancer, and how basically the polio vaccine was riddled with it and caused a bunch of cancer, and they didn't care. Like they started doing research about it after the fact, after they figured out that this was in there, but they didn't take the polio off the market. It's still out there, and it probably caused cancers to millions of people. And one of the things he talked about is they basically engineered cancer. That's why cancer has become so prevalent in today's society now, 70 years later, after the polio vaccine. Cancer was created in a lab, and that's why it's so bad now. And yeah, cancer, there were things that existed back then, before the polio, really accelerated since then. And all the stuff they put in our food and they put in our bad. One of the things you guys really need to pay attention to is the way they are demonizing RFK Jr., another Kennedy. What do you know? Um, like some of the
Yeah.
things that
One
Kennedy is
of
coming
the,
out.
one of the things that Jack Kruse, I was just gonna say real quick about Jack Kruse and the whole medicine thing is his whole thing is it's premised under what we call decentralized medicine, and we'll go back to the Kennedy thing, but it says decentralized medicine shifts the healthcare paradigm by focusing on patient autonomy, reducing dependency on centralized institutions, and leveraging technology such as blockchain, AI, and telemedicine to improve efficiency, accessibility, and transparency in care. It promises to create more personalized, cost-effective, and accessible healthcare options while raising new questions around regulation, ethics, and data security. So these are the things that Jack Kruse is pushing for in releasing all this information.
Which not coincidentally, you're involved in a lot of stuff too that's blockchain related, technology related, and health related, which will come to the forefront, as we progress with this podcast and as Alex progresses with the implementation of the quantum platform of the ecosystem. But Alex is involved in a lot of these alternative medicines and with people who are developing these technologies that are banned, like stem cell research and stuff that's like really groundbreaking, right? We're on this precipice right now with health and technology that we could eliminate a lot of diseases. We can eliminate a lot of the things that have become really bad for American health, right? Which brings me back to RFK Jr. RFK Jr. has won suits against Monsanto for Roundup, right? He is a champion for alternative medicine. He is a champion for really researching deeper research into vaccines. And you see it in the media right now, right? With Trump's cabinet picks, who are they demonizing? And Tulsi Gabbard. And I told you guys about Tulsi Gabbard a couple episodes ago, how much I like her. And they're bringing up, oh, she's in a cult, and oh, she's a Russian asset, and all this and that. Look at the people that the media demonizes the most, because those are the people who are the threats to the system. But RFK is right at the forefront right now. You have all these health people coming out and talking about how he's dangerous. Oh, he's dangerous to American health. American health is in the fucking shitter, you guys. If you don't understand that, like, you need to fucking wake up. Like, the American health system
Garbage.
is a system of death. They want you to
Ooh,
be sick and dying.
ooh, I'm getting beamed. I'm getting beamed with a high frequency right now, right as we speak about this stuff.
Yeah,
Super loud frequency, bro.
it,
Whenever I said it's garbage, it's just like, like,
no, it is terrible. Our health system is terrible. You look at Europe. Europe has banned a lot of the substances that are in our food. They will not allow it in their food. Like, food cereal companies have to make completely different cereals for Europe than they do here because of all the dyes and all the fucking bullshit that they put in your child's food. Like, the reason why cancer and things in our society are so much higher is because they put these additives in our food that are bad for us. And RFK is completely against this stuff, and he's going to come after this shit. And that is why the media is demonizing him. It's not because he's not qualified. It's not because he's some kind of rogue that's going to hurt your child's health. Your child's health is already in fucking danger because of what they put in your food. And he is coming out to stop that shit. Monsanto and their Roundup and their pesticides. Look into this stuff, you guys. This stuff is real. The
yeah.
Monsanto's
Yeah.
Roundup is
You know why you, you know why their focus is shifted on health right now, and I'll tell you why. It's because their focus isn't no longer shifted is focused on economics, because what good is the money if you can't be around long enough to spend it, right? And so, like, yes, money is super important, but people don't realize that you can create an entire economy around getting healthy, right? So, this is like, if you can see where the narratives are starting to roll out, it's like they're trying to make America healthy. Like, you're gonna start seeing all kinds of new technologies that are gonna start rolling out, and new treatments that you could take, new applications of stuff that's been buried for a long time. That now it's like, wow, we have access to the technology that's gonna be able to what we call extend our lives, right? Longevity tech. So this is just the beginning of these things, and as these things roll out, there's expect to see an entire economy built on the backs of people getting healthy. Just watch me saying it.
Well, and there's a reason it's being
uh
demonized too, is
we got
because
lag, guys.
yeah, we got a lot of lag. Um, but like Alex is saying, like, there's a lot of technology coming out. We're at this point where there's going to be a lot of new health technologies coming online, and a lot of it's been banned and demonized, like stem cells and different stuff, because the pharmaceutical company does not want you to be healthy. The old money is invested in your death. The old money is invested in you being unhealthy so that they can profit off of your bad health. And this is why this is all being demonized. This is why stuff like stem cells and the new technologies, they're trying to make you scared of it, because it's going to make humanity healthier, and it's going to make you live longer, which is a problem. I'm going to get into why with this. The Jack Kruse interview goes into why they want you to die, right? They want the boomers to die because
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
Roth.
but then for that you have to go into the whole financial system,
Well, that this is where we're segueing to now.
right?
This
And
is why this podcast was so important, because it ties all these things together. Well, why would the government want us to die? Why does the pharmaceutical industry want us to die? Well, it's because the whole financial system is a fucking Ponzi scheme. Your retirements, the Roth IRAs, it was all a giant Ponzi scheme to steal your money. They already spent it all, right? This is something Jack Kruse goes into extensively in this interview about why they want people to die, why they want your health poor. They want you to die because of the what's the tax on your retirement when you die? It's the estate tax, right?
it's called it's called death tax, and then you have an estate tax. So ultimately, it costs you money to die, and and ultimately, this is the way that dying before you get to retire and spend your money. That's the plan. The plan is that you're not going to retire. They don't want you to retire.
Yeah, well, because it's all a Ponzi scheme. And this is what he goes into it. Like, watch this interview, you guys. You have to watch it. Like, he ties it all together. Why is the pharmaceutical company a profit on death? Why does the government want us dead? Why would the government want their citizens dead? Well, because they created this big Ponzi scheme called retirement, and they stole your money from your paycheck for your entire life, boomers and people, my age, Gen Xers and beyond. They've been stealing your money. They put it in this retirement fund and these Roth IRAs, and then they don't give it to you until you retire. But if you die, they get 55% of that from the death tax and the estate tax. They get 55% of that money back, right? So that means they don't have to pay it out. And we're coming to where the bills due, right? We got all these boomers who are getting into retirement age, who are about to retire, and they're going to have to start paying out a lot of money. And they already fucking spent it. Look at our debt.
which
Like,
which by the way, by the way, between now and 2030, there is an expected 75 million baby boomers alone in this country expected to retire. That's a lot.
yeah,
That's a lot. And guess what? They can't afford to pay all that out. No
no,
fucking way.
they already spent it. It's gone. The money is fucking gone, you guys. It's gone. And that's why you need to die. That's why they want you to die. And that's what like, if you want to get back to the SV40, which is one other thing he tied in, is this SV40 is in the and it's causing super cancers for a lot of people who got it. And I don't know if YouTube's going to take us off for that, but because if you watch this interview, they bleep out that all this kinds of stuff. But this is why they push so hard for the vaccine. This is why they pushed you guys so hard and had this whole psychological manipulation campaign. They waged a psychological war on the population during COVID
The
to get
the
you.
the compliance the compliance campaign.
Yeah, and they pushed
That's
it, pushed it, pushed it, made it seem like you're going to get shut out of society, made it seem like you're a grandma killer if you didn't do it. Oh, do it for your grandma, do it for this, Do it for that. It was because they wanted you to get fucking cancer and die. That is 100% why. Like, you guys can call me a fucking crazy conspiracy theorist, but if you look at this, watch this interview. He is involved in the fucking pharmaceutical industry. He's a surgeon. He sees all this stuff. He knows why they did it. It's because they created a fucking giant pyramid scheme, and then they stole our money, and then they spent it on bullshit, and now there's no money. And now there's, like Alex said, 75 million boomers are about to retire, and they're going to have to start paying out this money in mass. So what do we have to do? We have to kill the boomers. So what do? Let's have this pandemic that we engineered in a lab in China. Let's unleash it on the fucking population. And what does it kill? It kills older people, right? It kills a lot of older people. Kills a lot of people that are unhealthy because, oh, America, we're all fucking unhealthy and obese here. It was a fucking plan, you guys. I hate to fucking break your fucking bubble of reality, but this is the fucking truth. They want you dead because they can't afford to pay you out, especially you boomers. You're about to retire. They want to fucking kill us. And that's why they're pushing down this new technology for health. They're pushing it away. They're pushing these which are full of fucking cancer causing agents and all kinds of shit. They're demonizing RFK because he's actually fucking whistling blowing this shit and calling it out. Look at what is happening. Look at who the media demonizes. And Malcolm X said this: be careful. The media will have you hating the people you should love and loving the people you should hate. That's not the exact quote, but Malcolm X was killed for the same reason because he was fucking calling it out. He was a fucking warrior and a champion for the people, and he was trying to wake people up to what is happening in this world. And you guys got to watch this Jack Kruse interview because he ties it all together so beautifully, and he makes you see it. It's like that meme of the guy prying the lady's eyes open and making her watch because this is the world we live in, you guys. So open your eyes. This is happening, and
So,
this dude
that's
is
so
not.
funny. That's so funny because I was sitting on a call on an investor call yesterday. I got these people that are looking to make some investments, and I happened to drop Jack Cruse's name, and they're like, hold on, like you know about Dr. Jack. And I was like, yeah, like you're well beyond your years, young man. Like, you know what? Enough said. Like, we can do business together. It's okay. And then they said, and then my friend who told me about it, he's like, aren't you glad I clockworked oranged you to watch that video? Which is basically the whole like,
Yeah, prying the eyes open. It's time
yeah.
to open up. It's time to open up those eyes, America. And it's so one of the things we said in the election stuff. Like, I'm not a Trumper.
Oh, don't do it.
No, I'm not
Don't
going to
do
go
it.
into. I'm not going super into it. But the reason why I was hopeful out of that him getting elected, because at least it showed that people aren't buying the media's shit anymore, right? And this is something that happened during COVID: is people snapped out of it in a way, and this is part of why we're here doing what we're doing, because we see that there's an awakening happening. We see that people are starting to look into things, and we're trying to be people that are shining a light in the right direction. Like, look in this place, look in this place, look in this place. Don't look over here because this is all bullshit. Jr. is not still alive, but RFK Jr.
And
is
if you
alive.
are gonna, and if you are gonna, and if you are gonna look over here, at least ask these questions over here so that you don't get lost in the BS.
Yeah. JFK Jr. is not still alive, but RFK Jr. is, and you need to fucking really look into the things he's talking about. Even if you're a vaccinatorist and you think that everyone should be vaccinated, at least look at what he's talking about the food, because even his biggest detractors will at least give him that. They'll at least give him that they're in our food production. And if you really delve deep, the food and the medicine and the money, it's all tied together. It's an octopus, you guys. We're dealing with a
Control
fucking,
tactics. Control tactics.
but it's like they're all in bed together. These aren't strange bedfellows. These are all tied together. This
Oh,
is part of the fucking octopus that is
by
the
the way, by the
what
way, what is the symbol for Hydra? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what the symbol for Hydra
octopus.
is?
It's
The
an octopus.
octopus.
But that is what we're dealing with. And this is part of coming to truth and coming to understanding. of what we're up against. The monolith we've talked about before, looking at the monolith and, oh, how can we stop it? Well, first thing you got to identify it. And that's Jack Kruse does a really good job of showing you the different tentacles of the octopus, exposing the tentacles of the octopus and its operations, how it's been operating since the 50s. Because this octopus has really taken a stranglehold over the past 70 years since the 1950s. And the 50s is when the it was growing from a baby into a big fucking octopus, right? So it's really like I said, look at the interviews down in the description if you guys are convinced at this point that you need to watch it, because you do. It's long, it's 4 hours long. The first 2.5 hours really goes into the nitty gritty. So if you can't commit for 4 hours, at least commit to the first 2.5, because if you're into this
Anyone,
stuff that
anyone who, yeah, I was gonna say anyone who's actually like into this, like you and I are, like who's actually curious, the first 5 minutes will hook you for sure.
Mhm. But at least commit to those first 2.5 hours. The last hour and a half is more about his career, but he does still talk about a lot of the health stuff. And this is really, really important, you guys. This is your life. This is our lives. And this is our country. This is our world, right? And these are the
One of
truths you
the
have
things,
to go ahead.
one of the things, well, I was gonna say, one of the things he talks about too that we didn't even touch upon was about how human beings emit UV light, right? That we emit light from the inside out and
Yes.
things of that nature, and how UV light helps us heal. This is like, bro, like this is mind blowing, like knowledge, information, like will completely change how you feel and think about medicine in general.
Well, and how you think about yourself. You're a fucking miracle. We're
Yeah.
all miracles of life. Life is a miracle. Like this will bring you closer to
Yeah.
spirit, God, the universe, oneness, consciousness. It's all encompassing what we're talking about here. It may not seem like it. It may seem like we're all over the place, like Charlie from fucking Always Sunny, but all these things correlate, right? They all come together, and health, technology, spirituality. This is the fucking consciousness shift that we are involved in. We have a real chance. This is why we're so like we're putting our lives into this. We're putting ourselves on the front line as targets, talking about these things, talking about these shadowy elements that have pervaded our society. But it's important because as you're coming into this white path that Manly P. Hall talked about of spirituality, of understanding what we're involved in here in this reality, in this life, um, and coming to the consciousness shift that we are in. We're all feeling this. This something is happening, especially with Pluto going into Aquarius. Like I 100% felt that energy shift. And if you guys are anywhere on the spiritual path, you did too. And it's just getting more and more intense, and they're going to try to
Having
they're going to try to detract this awakening with things like the fear of World War III. You know, this is the just distractions. This is the fear tactics. This is keeping us in fear. Oh no, Putin! What's Putin going to do? He's going to shoot nukes. And Biden doing this shady shit after he got ousted of allowing Ukraine to use these missiles
yeah.
to really escalate the conflict as we're about to have this transition into of power. That's dangerous. Why would you make that move? Well, it's strategic. They're trying to up the ante. The darkness isn't going to go down without a fight. The shadow is not going to just lay down to the light. It's going to take its last grasp, like fucking the T-1000 when he gets dropped in the molten lava, right? He's flares laying
Right.
around as he's dying, like that's what's happening. That's what's happening to this system. The system's dying. It knows
Yeah.
it's
The
dying.
good news is the good news the good news is that we already know what the result is. We already know that the light always wins. It's just we have to live it out.
But it's going to try the shadow's going to try to capture and hold as much power and energy as it can. And fear is what it feeds on. So you can expect fear. That's why he's talking about the media and look at who is trying to get you to fear RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and the people who are actually really like people agents of change. that can actually do some good and really shine a light on dark places, especially in the health industry, the health, the food. This you've been engineered to die in America. We've been engineered to die, and we touched on why. You know, they need you to die so they don't have to pay you out because they got us on a big Ponzi scheme back in the 80s. Unfortunately, our parents and you know the
Right.
people before us were not awakened. They were hypnotized by the television and the media, and this is part of the, you know, the shadow government has controlled the media for the last 40, 50 years, ever since they took out JFK. And they really like up their power. um like they've infiltrated Hollywood, they've infiltrated the media, they've infiltrated money, they've infiltrated fucking medicine. This is the octopus, you guys. It's real. It is 100% real. Um,
Yeah.
so
And guess what? Guess what happens? Guess what happens if you don't? Guess what happens if you don't procreate and you don't have a next of kin, or you don't have a successor?
they get all the money.
All of, they get to keep it all. So the point is, that's why they want. That's why they don't want to. That's why they're making you infertile. That's why they're doing all this stuff, right? Because then you go to work, you make your money, you don't ever get to retire, and if you die, you don't have any kids, so they get to keep all of your money. It's fucking evil,
Well,
downright evil.
look at your check stub. How much money goes to Social Security? You know, and that's
Which you're
supposed to
never gonna
be,
get, by the way. You're never
yeah,
gonna get that.
that's supposed to be your money for retirement. That's oh, we're gonna save it for you for later. No, they're not. They're fucking spending it. It's That's why we're trillions in debt. This is why it's it's so important to try to understand this, guys. And it's like I'm beating my head against a wall because I see all these things, and so many people, you've been distracted. And it was something you said a couple. It was distracted and um
To your own demise.
distracted to your own demise. You know, the bread and circus, the fucking shiny things, the celebrity culture, which has looks like it's been rejected, right, with the Trump election. Um, People are finally saying, well, I don't give a fuck what Cardi B says. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what Barack Obama says. I don't give a fuck what the media says. You know, but it's really important that if you want to know the truth, you gotta go all in. It's time to push our chips to the middle and really like commit to change because we have the means to do it. And this is part of what we're doing here. You know, we're not a very big podcast, but um, being that we are as knowledgeable as we are, we're already making moves we're playing chess along with these fuckers, right? Because we know they're playing chess and not checkers, and they've got the 85% or more of the population is playing fucking checkers out there. But we're playing chess and we're making big moves, and we're positioning ourselves to to be in a position to make a difference. And the reason why we're doing this podcast is to try to get as many of you to come along on the journey with us as possible because things are changing, and we need as many people as possible in our corner to help us to facilitate this change because it's not going to happen from sitting on the fucking couch eating fucking potato chips and drinking beer, right? Like we need people that are like on board, like really ready to commit their lives to this change. Like, you know, there's a quote that like an enlightenment is planting seeds for trees under which the shade of which you will never sit under, right? That's how to be architects of change, is to understand that we are given a responsibility. I'm 42 almost. Alex, you're almost 40, right? Like the changes that we're trying to facilitate will be for generations to come beyond us. We're trying to plant seeds under which the shade we will never sit under the shade of these trees. But we know that to make our lives meaningful and to live the way we want to live and make the difference we want to make in our lives, that we have to plant these seeds and we have to be willing to put our lives out there and be like, you know what, I'm going to die for this. Not that I'm going to go kill people, but like I'm willing to here, I'll stand in front of the bullets. CIA or whoever the fuck, mob or who, pharmaceutical industry, you want to come after me? Here, I'll stand in the front line and take the bullets because I'm willing to put my life on the line and do something meaningful to make change in this world that can benefit humanity because that's we're all one. That's the realization of like this isn't about me.
Right.
It's not about me. It's about us. It's
Speaking of
about
speaking of planting the seeds, look out because Quantum Botanist is coming out pretty soon. We got I'm working out the details with these people, with this producer. What they're doing is they're taking volcanic ash and turning it into like miracle grow fertilizer that helps boost yield of your crops. And I'm gonna get more information. They just reached out to me earlier today. We spent a couple of hours on the phone yesterday talking, and today they've sent me some information. So um, they're gonna be putting us as ambassadors of their product. So any of you farmers out there, any of you green thumbs that want to do your own, grow your own crops and stuff like that, we've got like 50,000 pounds of this stuff ready to go. I got some contacts in New Zealand. New Zealand is predominantly a farming country, so I'm gonna reach out to some of those folks and see if we get some orders going. But yeah, I mean, if we get some of this product moving, it'll also help us grow the podcast, help us grow our endeavors, and um, help us get the message out. And we've got some things in the works to bring the ecosystem alive. And they want to do a circular economy around bro, this stuff is absolutely phenomenal. Like they're not only taking volcanic ash and creating this miracle grow stuff, but they're also extracting graphene out of biomass and making mixtures with like cement and special mixtures for like construction and things like that. Um and uh and what else? Um Well, pretty much just those two things I could think off the top of my head. I mean, I don't have all of the information completely down right now. Again, I get hit with like, and I told them already, I'm like, I get hit with really complicated, super genius ideas like almost every single day, multiple times a day sometimes. I told them like, please send me like a one pager or like a pitch deck, and which they're gonna send to me, but to let me know like exactly like what it is that the whole process is. I mean, I got the gist of it when they sent it to me, and I like, in the time like when I'm hearing this stuff, I just process to see, okay, is this possible? Does this make sense? Is the science behind it check out? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, send me the information. I'm interested to learn more. And that's kind of where I got it to. I've got some friends of mine that are involved in that company, so they reached out based on the ecosystem that I'm working on. We're talking about doing a collaboration, maybe even doing some grant writing right now. So we're working stuff out, but I mean, if what everything is that they're telling me checks out, which I think it does, because it looks like I have some of the research that they've sent me through that I have to read through. It looks like yeah, we'll have that product ready to go. And the relationships, I'm just waiting on the contracts and stuff, but something else to look forward to. This is just one way because we talk about make America healthy, and things like that. It starts with, by the way, in case you guys didn't realize it, like we're gonna have to learn how to grow our own stuff. Like we go to the grocery store and we get a lot of our food, but let's be honest, a lot of our land right now, a lot of our agriculture and farmland is controlled by none other than Bill Gates. And I mean, uh, let's just say like with all the pandemic stuff going on, I'm not necessarily certain that like I necessarily trust him with all my food, but the point is that we should be, one of the things that I want to work
not
with
to
my
cut you
community
off, bro.
here and maybe
We're almost out of time. So I just don't want you to get cut off mid sentence like we did last time. We'll come back and wrap this up. but there's a lot of really exciting things that Alex is involved in, and we're not just fucking talking out our ass here, guys. We're presenting you this information, but we're also making solutions, like we promised when we very first started. We're going to be making some huge moves, and Alex is involved in some amazing shit. So we'll be back to wrap up this episode.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster. The new AOL for broadband. Welcome to the worldwide wow.
And we are back for part 3 of this episode 12. As you see, I've got my Arcana shirt on here. It's got all of the major Arcana cards from my tarot deck right here, my good old tarot. So I put all the major Arcana cards onto one shirt. It's called Arcana. You can find it on alchemisticapparel.com. And I got the Fool on my shoulder because it's the Fool's journey. So you guys, you like my stuff? You know, I was wearing the Infinite Mask shirt in the first couple parts here. It's a shirt for my painting up here. Infinite Mask up there on the wall. I was plugging that last episode. I've really been like kind of getting to a next level with my art. I'm really like proud of it. I'm really happy with how my t-shirts are coming out. So if you guys like the stuff that I wear it every episode. I'll wear an alchemistic t-shirt. Sometimes I'll switch t-shirts multiple times in an episode. Also got my little Sacred Clown sweatshirt here featuring Lulu here on the front. And I got my logo here on the sleeve, and then the other Sacred Clown on the back, the Fool here, which is also a Fool card in my tarot deck. So if you guys like this stuff, go to Alchemistic Apparel, alchemysticapparel.com. The link is down there in the bio. I got lots of good stuff. You can get my tarot deck too on my website. I'm really proud of the stuff I'm creating, man. That's my role in this whole thing. I'm just the creator, create art and stuff, and produce the podcast. But Alex is, I can't say enough, Alex, about the things that you're doing. It's like really exciting to be a part of the team with you. You know, we kind of joined up back in May. We knew each other for a little over a year or two, but really started to hammer things out and join forces back in May. And ever since, man, I've just kind of been in awe of all the things that you do. We don't really get a chance to really dive in deep because you're kind of trying to keep the cards close to your chest because of the things we talked about. You know, we're kind of a target. We are coming at the monolith with the steps we're taking, and the things that you're doing are really game changing, which is what this podcast initially has been about, is to introduce the quantum ecosystem that you are creating. And you know, all the conspiracy stuff and the knowledge and the information we're giving you guys is really just the gateway to this next level stuff that Alex is involved in. So I just want to give you your flowers, brother. Like the things that you're doing, the things that the energy that you're putting into the into the 3D is really, it's awesome, man. I'm really you know, I'm really proud of the work that you're putting in, and it's you know, we have our talks on the phone outside of the podcast, and it kind of just blows my mind. You know, I've always wanted to be a part of you know, like an agent of change. I've always kind of fancied myself as somebody that could help change the world, and I feel like joining forces with you has made that a real possibility, a real reality for me. So you know, I kind of feel like we're finding our place and our purpose. So yeah, I just want to give you your flowers, man. It's really exciting to
Dude,
be
thank
involved
you.
with you.
I really appreciate that, man. That really hits a space, you know, the string of my heart, man. Like, you know, I do a lot of the stuff that I do, and a lot of people just look at me and they're like, "Yo, this dude is fucking batshit crazy. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about or what he's doing. I don't think. I don't know, but I don't understand him. So it's like, so for you, and I appreciate you, man. This is the reason why when we first spoke, I asked you, and I told you, I'm like, there's a lot of things that I want to say, and unfortunately, or actually fortunately, I came across you because I feel like a lot of the stuff that you say, and I'll shut up for the most part, like because when you go on your rants, you know, I want to say a lot of the things that you're saying, but I know that for me to articulate it, it's very difficult. Sometimes I've got an incredible amount of information, like constantly just being thrown at me, and um I'm kind of like deer in the headlights on a lot of stuff, Like I get this stuff, that's why I'll reference often the screen. Like I look because it's a lot for me to hold in, I'm pushing maximum density when it comes to like the amount of information I'm holding. But I value the shit out of you, and I appreciate you for going on this journey with me because I knew that to talk about a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about, like I was telling you in one of the previous podcasts, like there's stuff that I want to talk about just on my own stuff, and I can't bring myself to do it because it's almost like I need it drawn out of me, like when I go into this flow state, I need someone to, like, that can understand the complexity of the jargon going on in my head and be like, do you mean like this? And it's like, yes, like that. Exactly. So yeah, so like this is very important, and it just goes, and I want you to understand, like, there's no role too big or too small. Like, even these things, these conversations that we have, and I value them because a lot of really wonderful ideas come out of them that if I didn't have the conversations, like they wouldn't have come. You know what I mean? Like it just wouldn't be there. And the conversations didn't happen with myself, it happened with you, or it happened with whoever else is watching, because I have a lot of conversations with people that are watching this show, and and uh and I've heard similar things from a few of those folks. So I really appreciate you, and I value you, and thank you for going on this journey with me. I know it's not an easy one. The hours are long and the pay is crappy.
So far.
But we're so far,
No,
but
it's
we're
it's
here.
it's meaningful work, dude. Like it doesn't like it goes back to the Manly P. Hall stuff, man. Like you can't get involved in this like chasing gold, right? Like the alchemy, oh, we're gonna change lead to gold. Like a lot of people will be fascinated by the gold. Ooh, gold, like Goldfinger, like and be selfish and greedy and want money. And it's like we know the rewards are gonna come, right? Like we've and this is something we talked about the other day on the phone, like we've both seen each other, like it's almost like we're mirrors, dude, like in our paths. You're doing your thing and you have your strengths, and I am doing my thing and I have my strength, and together we're this incredible fucking tag team, dude. And we both have qualities that are required for this journey, and us coming together has been super powerful, and we see the confirmations constantly. And it's like God is like dropping pennies to us, like to keep us going on this journey, because it's not easy to keep going. We've both been through some fucking wild shit just since we started this journey together since May. Like I'm
Yeah,
placed here in Georgia away from my friends and my life in Los Angeles. I'm out here in Georgia. You've had your own challenges going on in your life.
yeah,
And we're both just grinding, but we know that we're chasing, not even chasing, we're attracting the
yeah,
the 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 rewards. Just it's just about taking the challenges and keep going, and it's almost like the more challenges we get, it's more emboldening. It's like we know that we're
yeah,
climbing this ladder because we keep getting obstacles thrown in our path to deter us, and most people, I'm telling you guys, like the shit that Alex and I have been through, most, not to fucking toot our own horn, but most people would have quit by now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and it
for
just
sure.
emboldens me further the more obstacles I see, because I know that that's just the tests that reality is throwing to show, like what Alex has said, do you mean what you say and say what you mean? Are you the person you say you are? And guys, if you're on this journey too, and you're on a similar path, don't get disheartened by the challenges. Like just let it embolden you further that you're on the right path, because it's not supposed to be easy. If it was
No,
easy, everybody would be doing it. But because you're called to this hard path, you're going to get tested, but it's going to build you into a stronger and stronger person, right? Like, I've taken this time in Georgia to really connect within, to get rid of the distractions. And this is one of the things I was talking about with my mom yesterday, is like, people are falling out of my life like fucking flies. Just, I'm just fucking swatting people out of my fucking life that don't belong here anymore because their energy doesn't
Well,
vibe. And
I don't necessarily think that you're swatting them. I think in some cases they're actually removing themselves because they realize that they're no longer in alignment as well. You just realize that they're not calling you as much. Like there's ways to energetically remove yourself where it's like, oh, like I have peace now. You know?
no, 100%, man. And I've faced it with people that were really close friends with mine in LA. Just, and I've had intuitions about them, like, that person's and I love them, and I'm like, no, I want them in my life. I want them to be on this journey with me. And we've talked about this before. Like, not everyone's meant to go through that glass ceiling with you. And those
Yeah.
people, the imposters are going to reveal themselves, and it's a hard part of the journey. Especially most of us are empathic people. We love people. We want people to, we're trying to elevate humanity. And when you're on that journey, you want you want to bring as many people with you as possible. But some of the
Yeah.
people that you envisioned, when you have that vision in your head, some of those people you envisioned coming with you and being along with you on your conquest journey are not going to make it. And you have to be willing to just release and surrender to the process, surrender to source, because source, God knows who's coming and who's not. And he's going to try to give you as many signs as possible to let you know, hey, that motherfucker's shady. But a lot of times we're just like, no, that's my boy. He's been with me for 10 years. He's 100% on my corner. I want him coming too. And God's like, nope. If you won't remove them, I will. And don't lose, when you're losing people, don't lose heart. It's all going
Yeah.
to happen for you if you keep going. If you're going to follow that vision, the universe falls in love with a stubborn heart, and you have to keep going. Even in the face of these challenges, in the face of losing people, losing loved ones that don't believe in you, losing relationships with, people you thought were your soulmate or whatever. Like, people,
I will tell you this. Relationships worth having are fucking work. Fucking work, bro.
yeah,
Right? And they're not like, yes, they come easy because the participants of the relationship are willing to work just as hard as you are. Okay? If you're doing all the work, you're doing something wrong.
yeah.
Remember that.
Those are the ones. Those are the people that gotta go. The people who aren't pulling their weight. The people who want you to drag them. This goes back to the energy stuff we talk about constantly. Is as you start to elevate yourself, elevate your vibration, your frequency, and your energy, um, you're going to start picking up on the people you're dragging with you. Like, hey, I give this motherfucker advice and they never fucking listen. And then they just keep
You're
coming
right.
to me with problems
Right.
and more problems and more problems. And the problems that I tried to help them with, they didn't listen and they created another problem. Now they want my advice again, but then they're not going to listen again. It's going to create more. That's energy. They're energy vampires. They're stealing from you.
At that point, you're leaking. You're leaking all over the place because you keep giving, and they're not getting it. So at that point, like you gotta give yourself boundaries. Like, okay, like if you like, hey, listen, if you ask me one more time, and I've done this with a few people before, I'm like, hey, listen, when it comes to this subject matter, don't take it the wrong way if I just ignore you the next time you bring it up. And I've had that come up where like someone says they brought up the topic about their ex. I'm like, oh, here we go. La, la, la. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, I refuse. I'm not going down this path because we've already established that what that conversation leads to. And I refuse to engage in that stuff because I know it's a waste of time. So respectfully, I tell them I'm not gonna listen. And if you continue, I have to go. Sorry. And I hung up. Like, and you know what? Like, it's not personal. It's just like we've already been down this road, and I've already told you respectfully 100 times what to do, but you don't want to listen to me. It's okay. You just have to respectfully respect my stance on things, and I have to go, and I'm fucking gone, bro.
And when you put up boundaries like that, people are going to get pissed. People are going to start thinking you're an asshole. the spiritual journey is not all love and light. Like people have this
But
misconception
but
of
the people but the people doing the work will understand because they'll be like, oh, I get it. Like they're like, I'm still not healed, and trust me, I tell you, this person still respects me. They don't get mad at me when I do that to them. They'll still call me like nothing happened because they get it. They realize that they still haven't done the work, and they're like, oh, like he's not an asshole. He's like, I'm the one that's wrong because I keep bringing up the subject matter when we've already established we're not going to talk about that. So
this is something, Alex, like you and I know where we're going, right? We know where we're headed. We're headed this way, right? And as we get there, we're gonna have all these people either trying to come back or trying to throw shade. Oh, these guys are lucky and da 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 da. And it's like, motherfucker, don't hate. Like like we did the work. We did the
shit
work.
was not luck. It was not luck.
We've done the work. And this is one thing that don't be surprised when you see our faces everywhere. Don't be surprised when we're making big moves and doing huge things and people are like, holy fuck, these guys did this. It's like, yeah, because we did the work. And that's why we're trying to get you guys on board with what we're doing because we know where we're going. We've seen it and we're committed to it. We're not giving up at this point. No matter how much the shadow tries to deter us and throw us off the narrow path, like it's like, nah, we're laser focused on where we're going, and we've passed the test up to this point. There's no turning back. We're at the point. We're beyond the point of no return. We have pushed our chips to the middle, and that's empowering to be in that
Yeah.
space but like don't be surprised when people come up against you. Don't be surprised when people you love like turn shady. Don't be surprised at all. But like it's worth it. 100% worth it because when you have that peace within your soul of knowing that you're in your purpose and you're working for the divine, there's no more powerful thing in this life. That's the purpose of us being here, right? It's to find our divine journey, and that's the gift. And it's something. It's hard to come to that perception and that perspective because it is so challenging, and it can be draining and grindy, and but the gift is the journey. The gift is that you are awakened and you're part of that small little percentage that is willing to keep going because the shadow is going to keep trying to turn you off. And that's one of the things too is like when your light is shining, when you're shining your light into people's eyes, you're going to trigger their shadow. And that's how you lose people don't want to do the work, that don't want to heal, that don't want to integrate their shadow and come to this place where we're at. Like you're going to lose them if you're on this path, the white path that
So,
Manly Hall's
so
talking about.
here's one of the things that I will do. If you made it this far, I'm gonna give you a little nugget, okay? I'm gonna do me a favor, B. Let's put that AOL commercial in this time, and I'm doing a little experiment here. I'm participating in this community, and if you're live in America, if you're watching this and you want to participate in this experiment, I am going to add a little commercial video here. It's about America going online, and in light of all of the recent antics in politics and stuff, there's a lot of speculation as to what it means for America to go online. And so, if you want to check it out for yourself, go to americaonline.vip. Check it out. Jump in the pool if you catch my drift when you see it, and we'll see you at the top. There's a lot of action happening in the meme community and the meme coins, and this is one of those early ones that hasn't even really hit the main decks yet. It's only launched a few days ago. I was in it the second day, and it's been kind of like rolling flat ever since. So it's probably catching its bonding curve already, which means it'll catch its next leg up pretty soon. So if you guys are watching this, and you should check out it's on Solana, AOL, and we'll put the commercial in there.
I'll have it on. Well, if we made it this far, I'm gonna probably put it on the second and third parts, unless we go on to a fourth part. But yeah, if you guys have already seen the commercial,
Now you know why it's there.
now you know why. So yeah, man, it's I can't say enough, man. I know I already gave you your flowers, but it's really exciting the things you're doing, and it's so aligned with the path, and so aligned with what we're ultimately where that laser focus is looking. It's looking to make some earth-shattering changes, and to really challenge the status quo that has plagued us for at least a few decades, at least I would say at least a century, going back to the Rockefeller takeover of everything and how that whole thing just kind of steered us into this dark path that we're currently on. But it's about undoing the things like a lot of the stuff, a lot of the stuff that it's in the structure of our society. People don't realize we've only been doing a lot of this stuff for maybe 100 years, right? And the kick the can down the road philosophy of our parents and our grandparents of like leaving it to the next generation because oh we've always done it this way. That's like a lot of the common reason why we're stuck in this shit is because people weren't willing to take a stand and to make changes because it's working, right? Let's just yeah it's we've always done it this way. We haven't been doing it this way very long. We are still well within our rights and power as a species, as a society, to make a shift. And it's not going to take that much. It's just going to take you stop being fucking lazy and be disciplined as a collective, and ride this wave of this consciousness shift because the source, the universe, God, it's been prophesied. We're going that direction, and we've talked about the split in realities and Dolores Cannon stuff, where she's talking about the two realities splitting. Like you can either come on the wave of consciousness where we're going to change this and make this a better place, bring heaven to earth, if you want to use biblical terms, or you can stay stuck in this shadow mire of muck and this quagmire of shit and degradation and low vibrational fucking fear-based energy. You can stay in that. How about we give you that? It's a pretty easy choice if you really look at it that way, right? Like, are we going to go to love and unity and consciousness and oneness with the creator? Or do we want to stay stuck in the shadow fucking energy where we're currently like realizing that it's a house of cards and it's a Ponzi scheme and there's all this fucking shadowy octopus bullshit? Do you want to stay with Octopussy or do you want to get with the creator, right? Like it's a pretty easy choice. It just takes a lot of personal responsibility.
The power is always choice.
And the choice is pretty obvious. It's like we want change, we want things to be better for future generations, and let's be willing to plant seeds of trees, the shade of which we will never stand underneath, right? Because ultimately what it benefits is the next generation, the generation after that. And with technology the way it is, we could maybe extend our life span to actually enjoy a lot of the fruits of the labor, and maybe we can stand under these trees if we kill this fucking octopus already.
You mean we go back to where we used to live 900 years, like it was said in the Bible?
We can be Methuselah again, because things have been lost, and the veil is about to be lifted on consciousness permanently, and the shadow is going to be exposed, and hell yeah, like it's about damn time. It's about damn time. And let's stop kicking the can and just we haven't always done it this way. The Industrial Revolution really kicked off where we're at, and we can pivot and actually use the technology that we've been gifted with to do it. And we don't need Jesus to come down from a cloud to save us, because that's honestly not going to happen. It's inside of you. That's what it was really trying to tell you.
I forget how the saying goes, but there's a saying that something to the extent of magic is just a really sophisticated form of science, something to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
okay, so I said the Industrial Revolution, but you want to go back to the Middle Ages and the Catholic Church, right? The Catholic Church did so much damage, and we talked about this episodes back. We're talking about the old Roman shit, right? We're still stuck in a lot of old Roman shit. Our calendar, the Christianity itself. is stuck in old Roman shit, and it's the problem I've had with the church, and I've gone over this pretty extensively. The problems I have with the church,
We'll have to do a recap on the church and the Black Pope.
yeah, we might have to do the Black Pope next episode, but the church stomped out a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, the metaphysics, the Gnostics, the Cathars, the Templars, the mystic knowledge that was acquired back in the Middle Ages, got stomped out by the church because the church was the power broker of the time. The church was the octopus back then, right? And we're still feeling the ramifications of that because there's a lot of people stuck in the ideology and think things that we're doing, the energy work that we're doing, is evil, right? Let's go to my painting here, right? So you look at this painting. Okay, we got a pentagram in the middle, right? And it's
Oh,
basically
damn.
it's basically a fractal of stars. It's a fractal of pentagrams, right? And if the church saw this, it'd be, oh, it's evil. It's got the sign of the devil, the pentagram in the middle. And this is the misunderstandings of things that have permeated our consciousness, right? The pentagram, if you want to go to my Instagram, I do an explanation of what the meaning of this painting is.
You have a pentagram inside of a pentagon.
Yes. It's basically a fractal of pentagrams and pentagons. It's super powerful. If you see it in person, man, it's really mind-blowing.
One of the
I
things,
marvel at the things that I make. I don't A lot of the stuff is inspired. I sat down with a base design, and then I just my intuition took over. I started making mad lines, right? Just off of the existing lines, and it came out with this fucking crazy design, dude. It's wild. It is wild. I dare you to do psychedelics and look at this thing. It's gonna melt your brain. But so the pentagram, it's like,
we are not encouraging you to do drugs, by the way.
No.
That's the thing.
The church would tell you that that is the sign of the devil, right? Which is preposterous. If you really get into symbology and look into it, it's preposterous. But this is the problem is we're stuck in these ideologies, and a lot of it's old shit. It's from the old power structure, and one of the things, my mom likes to go to church, and I've gone with her a few times, and it's not a bad church. You know, I like the pastor, but when I go to these places, I'm really in tune with people's energy, right? And the energy of buildings, specifically when I'm in a crowded room, and when I'm around like a setting like that, a lot of the things I feel are performative, right? Like people are putting on an act, like, oh, I found Jesus and it's changed my life, and I bowed it, and like, and I believe that the way of Christ is the only way, right? But I don't believe that it's the church's way. I don't think the church is properly presenting the information. And I got a really powerful like it was a powerful metaphor of what the Christian church is. And so let's say Christ is a boat, right? The way of Christ is a boat, right? And the Christians are standing in a boat in the marina, and the Christian church, is the marina, right? So they're in this boat of Christ, but they're stuck in the marina, and they're shouting at people on the land, oh, you need to come in this boat. It's great to be in the water. You got to come in this boat. If you don't go in this boat, you're going to die, and you're going to go be damned to hell. But they never take the boat out into the ocean, because the ocean is evil too, right? So you're in this boat of truth. You're at the gateway. You're in the boat, but you're so afraid of the ocean that you stay in the boat, in the marina. You're stuck in the marina, which is a structure. It's this safe little structure where the boat is safe right here in the marina. We're just gonna stay in the marina and shout down at the people on land, oh, you need to be in a boat. But you never take the boat out into the ocean. And there's an old quote like a boat is safe in harbor, but that's not what boats are for. And I'll tell you, the same thing applies to the way of Christ, the knowledge of Christ. The true knowledge of Christ is out in the ocean. You need to take that boat out in the ocean. Get out of the marina.
I'm glad you brought that up because, and I'll reference this again, and we should probably cover this. There's a phrase. It says "Ite inflammante omnia," which is go and set the world on fire, and that was actually a command given by the first Black Pope. And that was exactly what you just talked about. Not to literally set the world on fire, but to go and set the world on fire by igniting the sparks in people's hearts and give them the knowledge of Christ. That's what he was talking about. And it's really interesting, and I just got chills just saying that.
Yeah, I got chills when I heard it. But that's the power. That's the power of a language that we don't understand, right? Like the the power of sound. Like this is like really important when you're looking into the translations of these scriptures and stuff like that. The old Hebrew tongue, which is pretty much a dead tongue at this point, right? And the tones of saying things in Hebrew or some other language like Latin, that's a dead
That was
language.
Latin. Yeah, that was Latin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Latin is a dead language, but it has power, right? The tone and the consonants of sounding out some of these old languages. There's a reason they're dead languages now, and we speak in this witch tongue, which is English. Um, it's a disempowered language, and we've lost the tone, the sacred tones of these old languages. But when you do things like mantras, right? I do a lot of mantra work, and it's part of my energy work. This is something I want to kind of incorporate more in future episodes. Is like my practice and what the things I do. But I do a chakra mantras, right? And I hold mudras. There's a mudra and a mantra for every chakra. And when I'm doing, it's like a prayer in a lot of ways, but it's a ritualistic thing I do in the shower. I do it with the trees. But I'll bring energy in from water or from the earth, from the trees, using mantras and the sacred chants of like Om and so Lam is the root chakra, Vam is the sacral chakra, Ram. So it's Lam, Vam, Ram for the solar plexus, Ram, and then Yam for the heart chakra, Yam, Ham for the throat chakra, Om, Om for the third eye chakra, Om, and then for the crown chakra, it's Aum, Aum. And when you make that vibration, it creates an energy field, right? And those sacred chants have power because of the power of sound. That everything is a sound is a prerequisite for energy, right? Like God said, "Let there be light." That was the first thing that facilitated creation was sound. This is what the Bible's trying to tell you. Sound is the root of everything. This is why music is sacred. This is why the sacred tones of music. You look at cymatics, right? Have you seen
Well,
cymat like the study of cymatics where they'll put like a bunch of sand on a plate and they'll vibrate it and it'll go into sacred geometry patterns. This is why sacred geometry is fucking sacred, right? These are the sacred things of geometry is sacred. It's sacred sound. It's sacred. This is sacred knowledge. And so anyway, that was a long tangent, but there's something to
yeah.
this. It's not just fucking wishy-washy, woo-woo, new age spiritual stuff. This is old knowledge that has been lost that's now resurfacing. And
It's not necessarily just that it was lost, it was deliberately suppressed to keep you disconnected from source so that they can manipulate you, they can control you, they can steal from you, they could take your energy, not necessarily take it so that you can give it to them so they wouldn't have to take it. You're giving it to them
yeah,
because you don't know you're playing in their game. Like he says, you're playing checkers and you don't even know it. You think you're playing Connect Four.
yeah. And it's that state of degradation, a low vibrational frequency that so many people are stuck in. That's the checkers game. You're stuck in these low chakras, these lower energy centers of your base desires. You're just food, fucking, and sleeping. That's the way of
We
life that needs to go. We're almost out of time. I think we should
yeah.
do another part. I think we could kind of keep it going. Maybe just wrap up a little bit further. I don't know. What do you think?
If
Should we just
yeah,
call it?
I think we should call it. I
All
don't
right,
know if
we'll
you want.
call it.
Yeah, because it's already getting super long. I don't know. I don't want people dropping off.
Yeah, we want to keep
I don't want
people
to hear myself
engaged. All
talk.
right, that'll be it for
We
episode
love you
12,
guys.
guys. That was a lot of stuff. We love you. We'll be back for episode
Yeah.
13 very
Leave us
soon.
some comments. Leave us some comments. Like, subscribe, and share. You know what to do, fuckers.
Share it, subscribe, go to Alchemystic Apparel, get my shit. It's really cool. Look at it. All right, bye.
All right, y'all.